Hello, nice to be here.
Great. First, let me get your reaction to this. Do you think it is in line with Trump's bold Bitcoin move? And yes, would you also place a bet on Solana?
Yeah, 100%. I would say it falls in line with what Trump is trying to do. And also, it's a bold move from Ghana, and them picking Solana is also a fantastic choice. So I would actually endorse his decision too.
All right, so on the one hand, we have an endorsement, which you're also endorsing, and on the other, there is that thought that this could be a transformative tool for Africa's fintech development with potential to sort of drive financial inclusion and innovation. I mean, I'm just wondering, I'm thinking to myself, don't you think this is overstated?
Not really. I won't say that because Solana has actually proved itself to be quite resourceful. And I mean, this is their fifth year that they've been running successfully. And in the crypto space, they have one of the cheapest transaction fees amongst all smart contract blockchains. And no doubt they've processed the most transaction volume within the last 1 year, and they're actually leading in terms of DeFi, both for transaction fees and also transaction volume, and also utility dApps that are there. So I would say if you look at Solana based on statistics and them being useful as a framework to be used to enhance transactions and finance in Africa, I would say it's actually a good choice and they're up to the task.
Okay, now, do you think decentralized finance, I mean DeFi, actually can serve as a critical alternative to traditional banking infrastructure? I mean, I would have thought to myself that the unbanked are actually those who do not have access to technology and are probably not as economically active as their banked counterparts. I mean, so how do we expect that this would solve that problem?
Well, I would say it goes a long way to solve the problem because first and foremost, you look at the fact that it's very easy. The requirements to onboard anyone to DeFi is at all-time low. It's very, very easy as long as you have access to a smartphone, which these days most persons do.
And now, that's the point. You're saying as long as you have access to a smartphone, but the unbanked, to a very large extent, do not have access to a smartphone, and to another extent, they're probably not as economically active as those that are banked. So at the end of the day, I'm just wondering, I mean, this part might be overstated after all.
Yeah, technically it's not because when they talk about the unbanked, most times they are not just referring to those that don't have access to smartphone. And also when we talk about the issues that plague traditional finance, it's not just based on those that don't have access to smartphones. Even those that have access to smartphones, they face lots of challenges making use of traditional finance. For example, you have bank networks being down most of the times, and you have some unnecessary limits and hurdles when you're trying to make transactions. And also when you talk about cross-border payments among African countries, you get it's almost not possible. You get, but DeFi eliminates all of these things. You get, so most times when we talk about that, we're not just referring to those that don't have access to smartphones. Even those that have access to smartphones, they're not making the most of traditional finance. So that's where DeFi comes in. It enables them to be able to do anything they want with their funds without limitations, without restrictions, and it makes Africa smaller because then you can be in Ghana and transact with people in Nigeria per minute and they're getting their funds in mere minutes or seconds, they're getting that. But with the traditional system we have in place, it's almost impossible. You want to transact with someone in South Africa from Ghana, it's difficult. Nigeria to South Africa, Nigeria to Ghana, it's difficult. Payments, difficult. There are lots of hurdles and dependencies and middlemen. But with DeFi, it eliminates all of that. So that's what they mean where they say DeFi can disrupt traditional finance, basically.
All right, so I mean, I'll probably just put it in this way that it's not necessarily for the underserved, it's actually to enhance access for those that are already on the banking system. That's how I'm going to explain this. Now, away from that, let's look at some...
obviously.
Great, that's fine. Now, Ghana's president actually called on the public and private sector stakeholders to sort of collaborate on blockchain-powered solutions for economic development. I'd like you to unpack that for us. And not stopping there, he also sort of advocated for investment in fintech startups. I mean, we hear that all the time, digital literacy programs and, blockchain education and all of that. But I'm interested in the first part, really. How will that work?
Well, right now, the blockchain technology is still in its very first stage. I mean, it's not even up to like 20 years old. Basically, we're still in the first era of it. So looking at Bitcoin, you say Bitcoin is roughly 14 years old or thereabouts. So there's still a whole lot that can be done. And for the first time since the history and inception of cryptocurrencies and blockchain technology, we're having the world come to like accept it with USD leading the charge, the president endorsing crypto. So the next 4 years will be filled with lots of innovation, lots of support, lots of fundraising, and lots of push to take this whole ecosystem to the next level. So we have not even yet scratched the surface of what can be achieved with blockchain technology. So far, everyone has been talking about is DeFi, 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 but there's a whole lot more than DeFi that can be achieved with the blockchain technology. And the only way that we can be able to do that is via innovation, via investment, and also via trying to incentivize the youths to go into this ecosystem, innovate, and see what can be made out of it. And also, Africa would not want to take the back seat in this whole technological era, because in most other technological eras, we've always taken the back seat, but here we have an opportunity to actually lead the charge.
That's quite interesting. Let's just talk a bit about Solana. Now, I mean, undoubtedly recorded some gains with more than $7 billion in total value locked. And we also see it sort of surpassed Ethereum in developer interest. Talk to us about what's fueling this growth and what your outlook is for this.
Well, I would say one of the major reasons why Solana has been outperforming almost every other blockchain is the fact that the transaction fees are actually extremely cheap. And also they've been doing lots of in real life events where they tend to carry developers along, they tend to carry the communities along, and also the initiative of the Solana super team, which they have deployed in different continents and also some different countries, also have it in Nigeria. This has also helped foster the growth and engagement in the ecosystem. And I must also mention that of meme coins. The meme coins rally, the meme coins craze, people being able to trade meme coins at very low fees, and also being able to carry out tons, hundreds of millions of transactions without the network shutting down, nor without the network clogging. So these help give Solana that huge boost. On Ethereum had lots of issues. Whenever there's a surge in meme coins trading or surge in DeFi activities on Ethereum, we tend to see the gas fees shoot up to like $50 per transaction, which everyone will agree that's outrageous. Sometimes even up to $110 per transaction. That is absurd and insane. But on Solana, the most you will see will be like maybe 50 cents or 80 cents, which is moderately fair. So these are like some of the issues that helped cement Solana's position as one of the best blockchains when you talk about DeFi and transaction volume. And it has also helped them being able to hit the metrics that they've hit recently, talking about daily trading volume, yearly average traded volume, and also monthly trading volume, and also TVL. So it's quite fantastic, but we'll be on the lookout, see if they'll be able to maintain this hype so far.
Oh, that's quite interesting. I'd like to close with this. I mean, we've seen the United States a strategic Bitcoin reserve. Are we going to see anything like that soon in Africa? I mean, what do you think?
Sincerely speaking, I expect that by now some other African countries will gradually begin to announce their strategic Bitcoin reserve. It's inevitable. It's only a matter of time. If they don't do it this year, they'll do it next year. They don't do it next year, they'll do it the next 3 years or 4 years. But the earlier the better. Now, why is because they can't change where the world is moving, so we can't change the trajectory. That's one. And secondly, the price of Bitcoin would only continue to increase long term. So if a country can be able to set up their strategic Bitcoin reserve today and start accumulating those Bitcoin, they'll buy the Bitcoin at a discounted price today, because the price to be by next year, next 2, 3, 4 years to be way more expensive. Thus, if it's costing a country, let's say $500 billion to get X amount of Bitcoin today, tomorrow it will cost them more to get that same amount of Bitcoin that they could have gotten for $500 billion today. So the faster any country sets up their strategic Bitcoin reserve, the better for them. And this is truly the future of finance, be it traditional or DeFi, anyone. This is actually the future.
What about the risks associated with, things like this? What about that? Are we dealing with that very well? Because I think that to a very large extent, some African countries are still struggling with regulating these things. In 30 seconds.
So the issue why they are struggling with regulating most of this is because of they need to come up with a different regulatory framework. They are trying to make use of the framework that they use for traditional finance, for decentralized finance, and it's quite difficult because these are two distinctly different assets. And they need to just come up with better rules and a better framework, simply put, that they can use for this whole infrastructure. That way, they'll give it the opportunity to thrive, evolve, and people to also be able to innovate around it. Because we agree that traditional finance has reached its top. You can't really push it beyond where it has already, where it is already for traditional finance. So that's where DeFi comes in, and DeFi takes it to another level. So they just have to come up with better frameworks that they can use to be able to regulate this and not try to make it fit into the framework of traditional finance.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Solomon Amunde, crypto analyst, for your thoughts on the show today.